Hello, 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 and welcome to week 2 of the Canidae event 2025. I am joined by Bonnie, Wendy, and Meredith. Thank you, ladies, for joining again. And I'm just a wee bit tired, but I need to get this done, otherwise, it won't get done. So, uh, Wendy, to comment on your last comment on my first Wip'n'Chat for this event, Chewy was not a rescue. Chewy was a dog my mom purchased and supported a ruthless business that I don't agree with. So, he's not a rescue. So I guess I'm not going to talk about. I mean, his story's not that exciting. My mom purchased him. So, um. So the next dog in my current pack that was rescued was June. When we had Dottie, we still have Dottie. When Chewy was alive, and we had Dottie, um, we also had Rosie, but Rosie was also a purchase by my mother. So she's not a rescue. But when the last year Chewy was alive, my mom had gotten Rosie, and Chewy he really had a hard time dealing with the fact that there was a new dog. I mean, a year or two prior, no, he would have loved it. He would have loved adding more ladies to his harem, but um, being as delicate as he was, he had a really, really hard time dealing with her as a puppy, and my mom had Chewy out with her for uh, a stint. And then when she got Rosie and Chewy was just, he was struggling with the fact that there was another dog, very young, she was a 6-week-old puppy, and she turned out to be a working breed and not a Chihuahua. Chewy he was really struggling. And so I had brought Chewy back in with me. And, the last year he was alive, I was talking to my mom and I was like, it'd be really nice to get a playmate for Rosie because obviously Dottie can't be your playmate because Dottie can't be around other dogs. And, she was so young. I thought it'd be nice one day when, after Chewy passed to find to find her a playmate. And so, he passed and a couple months had passed. Normally I'm, how do I say? Usually my way of grieving is getting a new animal right away. I waited a couple months after Chewy because he destroyed me. He just ripped my heart out and stomped on it and then tore it up into a million pieces. And so, a couple months had passed and I was like, okay, let's get Rosie a playmate because Rosie was still living with me because surprise, surprise, my mom couldn't handle a young puppy, and so I ended up taking her, and I was really trying to bond with Rosie because when she was really young, like, oh my goodness, I hated that dog so much. I hated Chewy when my mom got Chewy too, and Chewy was a puppy. I don't like puppies. I don't like them chewing all over my shit. I don't, I don't like all the behavioral training you have to do. But, my mom was at her wit's end with Rosie, and, so I had agreed to take her temporarily, which turned out to be more or less permanently. Because, I was good with behavioral training and my mom, not so much. And, knock on wood, Rosie is not nearly as neurotic as she used to be. So, I was really trying to bond with Rosie, and I was like, but I'm still missing something. I still feel just gutted, and so I'm like, all right, it's time. Let's go rescue a new dog, another dog. And um, normally I go for older dogs, but I wanted her to have a playmate, and so we went to the pound with the anticipation of getting a younger dog that would play well with Rosie. Um, it is really hard to see my display. Um, so we were sitting in the parking lot, and I was crying because it had been a couple months, but damn it, I was still grieving, and I am still grieving. I think if you've had to grieve over and over again. Each experience is unique as a snowflake. You don't know when it'll come on, how long it'll last, does it ever stop? There's no set rules on how long or what impact it'll have on your life. Each experience is going to be completely unique. And uh you know I've never been hit so hard with grief, and I'm still not over him, which is probably why I have so many dogs. But we were sitting in the parking lot, and I was crying, and it was a really busy day at the pound that day. There were a lot of people coming to drop off their dogs, and so there was a line outside of the intake door of people holding their dogs, standing with their dogs to drop off their dogs. So, I'm sitting in the car and I'm crying, and my mom's sitting next to me, and this woman, gets into the line, and she's holding a weenie dog. And I'm just looking at this dog, and I'm looking at this dog, and I was like, oh, that's so sad. I could tell that the weenie dog was old. And I go, Mom, look at that old dog. And I was like, that's so sad, that someone's bringing in their old dog. That's so sad, because you have to wonder, how many lives, oh my goodness, they're not cats, how many years they spent with their owner, and then for them just to be ripped out of their home and everything familiar and everything that they love and dropped off into a very, very scary place. And Mom turns to me and she's like, do you want that dog? And I was like, no, I can't. I can't walk up to her and ask her for her dog. And she's like, okay. And then she gets out of the car, and I was like, oh, great. So my mom's talking to the woman for a while, and I'm watching them, and then the woman hands over the dog, and Mom brings the dog, aka June, to the car and gets in. And I was like, okay. And my mom's like, well, what happened was that woman was driving down the one of the busy roads in Spanaway, which happened to be in my hometown where I spent the first 20 years of my life. And this weenie dog was just running down the road. And she's like, and the woman said that she tried to take this dog to her house, but she was picking on her larger dogs. June weighs 14 pounds. She's picking on her larger dogs, and it just wasn't going to work out. And so I asked if I could take her, and she said yes. And I was like, okay, I guess I have a new dog now. My impressions of June were not great at the beginning. Um, I felt she was 100% as much fun as a wet blanket. And in the summertime, that may sound like a nice thing, but I think the general consensus is that wet blankets are not fun. And Alex, I remember you leaving a comment. I believe it was you, Alex. I could be wrong. Saying, just give it time. You know, she's a new dog. You know, it's gonna take time to bond with her, and for her to come out of her shell. Um, I am happy to report that June is still 100% a wet blanket. But what I did discover in that moment, or not in that moment, but as time went on, was that I am just the type of person who enjoys a wet blanket of a dog. So we were a match made in heaven. Um, at the time, this seems to be how a lot of my animals get their names. At the time, I was watching the movie Benny and June over and over again because that's what I do. I can watch the same movie 50 times before I decide to change out the movie. And I was watching the movie Benny and June, and you know, I love movies where the main characters are not, let's just say, uh, typical type of people. Um, Diverse. I like watching characters with that have that are diverse. Um, and so you know, I was thinking of names, and I was like, you know, what about June? And mom's like the month? I was like, no, like it's gonna be spelled Joon, June. Because the one of the main characters in Benny and June is of course June. Um her formal name is Juniper Pearl because that is the actual character name in the movie is Juniper Pearl, but they call her June um for short. So where did that drill go? I need a new pen. They call her June for short. So I call her June most of the time. Sometimes I call her Junie Boonie. Um, I do call her Juniper Pearl sometimes when I call her, which is a joke because she doesn't come when you call her. Um, do I have any other names for her? Uh, no, it's I usually call her June or Junie. Um, yeah, I guess that's my. Yeah, she doesn't have a ton of nicknames. What are some quirks about June? Oh, I call her June Bug sometimes. Um, so June hates dogs. Like she hates dogs. The one dog that I have in this pack that she tolerates, as in will let her lay by her or she'll let her sniff her, is Rosie. And I don't know why. Rosie's the youngest dog we have. Um, I'm sorry if my hand was covering up my drilling. Um, I do not know why she likes Rosie. I have a suspicion that, like maybe a strong word for this scenario. I have a suspicion that because Rosie was the one dog we had besides Dottie, but you know Dottie can't be around other dogs. Rosie was the one dog we had when we got her, and I think maybe in that transition from home to home, um, that you know, because she was the first dog she met in this family, maybe that's why she formed a semblance of a bond with Rosie. I don't know. I don't know, but it's not often June will snap at Rosie. It's not often. It has happened, but it's not often. She absolutely despises Honey Lemon. My poor sweet Honey Lemon. Honey can just walk within view, and June is growling. Like, she's just, God, she's such a, oh my goodness. She's the sassiest dog I will probably ever have. I believe June is mostly weenie. I suspect she's Chiweenie, but mostly wiener dog, because she looks exactly like a wiener dog, a mini wiener, with the exception of her ears, because her ears are prick ears. They stand straight up. Other than that, she looks like a wiener dog, so I'm guessing she's mostly weenie. I don't think, not sure she has a favorite food. At least not one that I know of. I don't think she has any allergies. She's a pretty normal dog. I'm thinking about trying to find a dog chiropractor, because I've noticed when she's standing that she's tucking her back legs under her just a little bit too far, which is an indication of some weakness in the back end, which I am not at all surprised, because she's mostly weenie dog, which is why I never ever wanted a weenie dog. I mean, besides her personality just not being my cup of tea for the most part, because all my aunt ever gets is wiener dog, so I'm familiar with the breed. Um, but yeah, I really didn't want to deal with those back issues, so. But the universe put June in my path, and by golly, June is my baby. She is not a warm and snuggly type of dog. Um, the only time she requests for me to hold her is when my mom comes in the house and sits next to me. I don't know why. Maybe it's a jealousy thing, because my mom will pick up her chihuahua and sit down in the recliner next to me, and then June will walk up. She'll stand up on my mom like she wants my mom to pick her up, but that's just a trick. If my mom tries to pick her up, June will bite her. But I believe June just does it so that I'll pick her up, because I don't want my mom to get bit. So, and then as soon as my mom gets up to leave, June starts squirming and she wants down. It's only when my mom comes in here to sit and talk to me that she wants to be held. So, yeah, she's an odd duck. She's very vocal. She likes to bark at me when I'm coming out of the bathroom. Calliope barks at me when I go into the bathroom. June barks at me when I come out of the bathroom. She really doesn't like her head pet, because she doesn't like her ears touched, but, yeah. So, that's the story of June. She's getting up there in years. So, unfortunately, June did not fill my empty heart. I mean, she did, but I was still searching for something. And, oh my god, I was perusing on Craigslist again, and, I'm not sure what the hell I was looking for, to be honest. I do not know. I don't know. So I was perusing on Craigslist, and I pull up this ad, and it was this ad for this Chihuahua. And the picture, like, Ruby was sitting in somebody's lap, and she was looking up at the camera. And you could see her white muzzled face, and I was like, oh my goodness, that looks like the most frail old dog. Maybe I should go save her. And so I was like, because I wasn't working at the time, I was like, there's not a snow's chance in hell that my mom's gonna say, yeah, go get that dog, right? So I go out to her house, and I was like, hey mom, look at this picture. And I pull out my phone. She's like, oh, she's cute. And I was like, I kind of want to go get her. And, this whole time we had been looking for a Chihuahua. I'd gotten Dottie when I was looking for a Chihuahua. Then mom got Rosie, who was supposed to be a Chihuahua. It turned out to be a very high energy working American Rat Terrier. 25 pounds, not a Chihuahua. June, not a Chihuahua. Doesn't like to be held. Um, and my mom's like, go get her. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, go get her. And I'm like, okay. And I sent an email, and I was like, hi, is your dog still available? And not even 5 minutes later I get a return email. And he's and I'd left a little bit of information, that I had 3 dogs, and you know some stuff about me. And he sent an email back, and he's like, yeah, I still have her. Do you want to meet tonight? And it was like 9 o'clock at night. And I go, what's the hurry? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, why are you so eager to get rid of her? I mean, is there something wrong with her? Not that that would have mattered to me, but and he's like, no, nothing's the matter with her, but you just seem like a real genuine person. Do you want to meet tonight? I was like, okay. And he's like, all do you live in Tenino? And I was like, no, which is like it's like an hour and a half away. And I was like, no, I live in Elma. And he's like, I'll bring her to Elma. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, the only place, I can think that is, lit, that's public at night was this hotel. It's a one stoplight town, there's not a lot going on in the middle of the night. And he's like, all right, let me throw her in the car and I'll be there. And I was like, okay. And so I go out to the house, and I'm like, hey mom, here's this guy's phone number and his name. If I don't come back, will you call the police for me? And she's like, well, that doesn't give me much reassurance. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. This ball is rolling fast. It's a runaway Chihuahua ball, and I'm jumping on. And so I leave, and I meet him in the dark parking lot, and looks like 23 minutes. Yes, 23 minutes. And he's like, thanks for showing up. There was been a lot of people who have ghosted me on her. And he's like, I've been trying to find a home for her for like a month now. And I was like, well, what's going on? And he was telling me that his mother had gotten Alzheimer's, and she had just went into a home. And he was trying to find a home for all of her animals. She had 3 dogs and 3 semi-feral cats, and he had found a home for the boy Pomeranian mix. Beautiful red hair. And he was like, and people kept saying they wanted her, and then they wouldn't show. And he's like, I really gotta find him a home. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, I'm very sorry for what you're going through. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. I was like, okay. I had brought Dottie with me. Dottie was in the back seat, and Dottie was crying, and I was like, it's just a dog, Dottie, And he went over and pet Dot, and we said our goodbyes. I don't remember what most of the conversation was. Probably just him talking about a sick mom. And I came home with a Chihuahua, and um, I had did I send Dottie out to Grandma's house? I don't remember. I probably did. Anyways, I came home with a Chihuahua, and when we were in the dark parking lot, he was talking to me about how he still had. I'm trying to see if there's any more of these letters. He was talking to me about how he still hadn't found a home for the semi-feral cats, and I was like, "Don't you look at me for that, because I'm not taking. I have 3 cats. I never want another cat in my life. Just I'm the wrong person to talk about cats with." And he's like, "And I still have the big dog," and I was like, "Oh, what breed is the big dog?" And he's like, she's a staff mix, and he's like, the neighbors were gonna take her, but she was just too crazy for them, and so they backed out. And I was like, "Oh, that sucks." And I'm a big dog person. Like, June is my first little dog. Chewy was my mom's dog. Lulu was my mom's dog. Ray was my mom's dog. Oh yeah, I forgot about Ray when I was going over my previous pack before. How many dogs today? Anyways, stupid hair. What was I saying? I'm a big dog person. June's my first little dog that was actually mine. And I thought Ruby would be my second little dog that Ruby is not my dog anymore. 2 days after I got Ruby, my mom took her with her to her sister's house for a week. And when my mom came back from her sister's house, Ruby wanted nothing to do with me. And I am quite aware that Chihuahuas are a one-person type of breed, and so I knew it was all over. She cried at my front door for an hour wanting to go find my mom. And so, yeah, Ruby is my mom's dog. So I'm out of dog. I'm paying for her dog, but I'm out of dog. She's not really mine anymore. So I told my mom, I was like, "You cannot see Ruby for a week, so I can try and bond with her again." But I realized that was just a battle that I was not going to win, because as soon as she got to be with my mom again, then she'd forget about any bonding she did with me. So, anyways, so I was talking to Bryant, and he had sent me a picture of Honey Lemon. Ruby's name at the time was Rosie, which obviously we couldn't have 2 Rosies, so eventually we renamed her Ruby. And I'm like, Bryant, I'm about to go to Oregon for a little bit. I was like, just, we can talk. Mind you, I still don't have a job. I was like, we can talk after I get back from Oregon, but there's no way I'm talking about taking a. How many dogs is that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 5th dog. And then taking that 5th dog with me to Oregon. I was like, it's not happening. And he's like, "Oh yeah, no problem." I was like, "Hey, if you find her home, I'd be very happy for that." I was really thinking, it's like I miss having a big dog. Rosie wasn't really a big dog. June and Ruby weren't big dogs. Dottie lived with Grandma most of the time, except when Grandma went to her sister's. So I'm a big dog person, and I was like, "We'll talk when I get back from Oregon." And he had sent me a picture of her, and in the picture, she looked completely white. Turned out it was a very old picture, too, because I was skipping forward a little bit, but she was almost completely bald when I saw her for the first time. Anyways, so yeah, I went to Oregon with Ruby, Rosie, and June, and it seems like 2 little dogs. Oh my god, I'm losing track of dogs. How many dogs did I fucking have? This is so confusing. Ruby, Rosie, June. Okay, no, that's the correct amount of dogs for that time. I went to Oregon with Ruby, Rosie, and June, and Grandma kept Dottie. And I will leave off there, and we will come back to, I didn't get a lot done this time. I'm very tired. We will come back to Honey's entrance into the family on week 4, or just whenever I decide to do a whip and chat. I'm just, hopefully when I'm not so dead. Thank you all for watching. Everybody's channels that are participating will be in the description box below, so please go over and show them some support if you could. And, yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you so much for watching if you did, and I will talk to you later. Adios.